Hello, it's David Allen and you are watching Sporting Icons.
You know, I always support the Brits, and with Joe Joyce, he's no exception. I will support him, and every time he fights, I hope that he wins, okay? But ultimately, I've seen nothing of him that will convince me he's ever going to be a world champion or a major player in the heavyweight division. Listen, it's just my opinion, and as I said, I am a fan like many of you guys. It's just that I don't fanboy for him. That's kind of like a difference. I do fanboy for some, but Joe Joyce isn't one of them, and a lot of it is down to his management team. But anyway, never mind that. So with Joe Joyce, I see him as British to Commonwealth level. What he is right now, he is a Commonwealth champion. That's kind of how I see him. But eventually, I think that he will be the heavyweight version of a Josh Wale. That's how I see him. I don't ever see him as becoming a world champion. In my opinion, he's slow, that's for sure. And I don't think he'd ever become a superstar because his personality is very, very droll. He's boring, okay? But him being boring, his character isn't a reflection of his fighting style. Or maybe it is, because his fighting style, he's very slow. He blocks punches with his head. Now, listen, he's only had, half a dozen to a dozen fights now, okay? And he does have a pretty decent fight with Bermane Stiverne coming up in a fight that he should win. Bermane Stiverne, he's got the tag of former world champion, but we all know why he was world champion. He got put in there against a guy he'd already defeated, a journeyman in Chris Arreola. And the reason that he got that shot is because Don King, his promoter, very good friends with Mauricio Sulaiman and the WBC historically. Okay, so that's why he was there. But I do favour Joe Joyce in this fight, but Bermane Stiverne has a puncher's chance. So Joe Joyce turns down Luis Ortiz. Now, I don't blame him for turning it down, but what I do blame him for was why he called him out for. Joe Joyce has a history of this, and this is kind of my beef with him. No, not beef, but this is my issue with him, where he will mention names like Luis Ortiz, Dillian White, Derek Chisora. Well, Derek Chisora, I believe he did actually try and fight. But Hughie Fury, Jarrell Miller, Gerald Washington, the list goes on. Okay, he mentions names. And as I said to you guys a few months ago, he does this, and I have a feeling he does this for profile, but never actually has any intention of fighting them. Now, I watched an interview yesterday with Abel Sanchez where he said that it was him that stopped the Luis Ortiz versus Joe Joyce fight because he feels Joe Joyce isn't ready. Which is the right thing to say, okay, and because he's not ready, in my opinion. I think any kind of top-level heavyweight would walk through Joe Joyce at this stage. I would love to be wrong, and if he ever did fight Luis Ortiz, I'll be in the corner of Joe Joyce, literally, the entire fight, and the entire build-up, all that kind of thing. Listen, of course he's British, right? And I do hope that he does go on to become world champion, as I do for all Brits. But Luis Ortiz, at this stage, would destroy him. Joe Joyce is not one of the top guys. I know a lot of people like to believe that he is, but he's not. He just isn't. That's my honest opinion of it. He just isn't. If people don't like it, then you don't like it. You know, everybody has an opinion on whoever it is. But he's too slow. He's shown no improvements since he was an amateur, in my opinion. And for a guy who can do backflips in the middle of the ring before and after fights, all that kind of thing, and then put an opponent in front of him is like a slug. Very slow. Ooh. He's like a George Foreman, I suppose, but George Foreman had a bit more about him and a hell of a lot more power. But for Abel Sanchez, listen, Abel Sanchez, he's his trainer, as he also trains Marek Gassiev and Triple G Gennady Golovkin, among others. And any good trainer, any good coach, any good manager, any good promoter will always deflect some blame onto themselves away from the fighter. So him saying that I chose not to fight Luis Ortiz, I see it as Joe Joyce was never serious about fighting Luis Ortiz. And I have no issue with him not being ready for Luis Ortiz. He shouldn't be ready for him. But as I said, he has a history of calling out fighters and nothing ever materialises. It's a whole PR campaign. Call out this so-and-so fight, knowing that the fight's not going to happen. Oh, well, I tried. Well, you didn't try. Okay, as I said, with Big Baby Jarrell Miller, he could have fought him. He could have fought Luis Ortiz. He could have fought Gerald Washington. He could have fought Hughie Fury. He could have fought so many fighters, but just doesn't. And that's kind of my issue with Joe Joyce, is that he talks a lot and nothing ever materialises. It just doesn't. And I believe that he was never serious about fighting Luis Ortiz. And he shouldn't have been serious about it. In fact, he shouldn't have called him out to start with. That's my honest opinion. That's why I don't like it when fighters call out other fighters just for profile without any real intention of fighting them. That kind of winds me up a little bit. So, I mean, I'll put the link in the description box for you guys to go have a watch of that video of Abel Sanchez to come to your own conclusions. But for me, as I said, I see Joe Joyce as the heavyweight version of a Josh Whale. You know, a lot of bite and not much substance. That's pretty much how I see it. And I don't like saying that because I always support the Brits. But Joe Joyce is not an elite fighter. I don't believe he ever will be. I think he talks a lot and just doesn't do a lot. And I think at some point soon we'll see him undone, because at some point he's going to talk himself into a fight where he can't get out of it without looking like a real coward openly. And he's going to get done in that fight. That's my honest opinion. I think that Joe Joyce he's certainly not a top 15 fighter. I know he is ranked by a couple of sanctioning bodies, but he shouldn't be there. I think that the people above him would do him. That's my honest opinion. I do believe David Haye, Richard Schaefer, of course formerly David Haye, have got in his ear so much and talked to him and convinced him that he's one of these kind of top elite fighters, that he could get in there with Joshua and Wilder and Fury and Dillian Whyte right now and potentially do them. Reality is, listen, I know boxing, and I've been watching boxing for a long, long time. I know what I see with my own eyes. He ain't. He just ain't. So if you're going to call out Luis Ortiz, fight the man. At least when Dillian Whyte mentioned about Luis Ortiz, he offered him a headline fight at the O2 Arena. Luis Ortiz said, no, I'd rather fight on the Wilder Fury undercard. If you want to fight me, come find me there. I mean, that's not having too much ambition, is it? You're quite happy to be an undercard fighter. With Anthony Joshua, he could have fought Anthony Joshua after Joshua fought Kubrat Pulev. He had to fight Kubrat Pulev because he had the IBF title first. Luis Ortiz was a WBA mandatory. And he said to Luis Ortiz, you can fight on my undercard when I fight Pulev, and then I'll fight you next. Or wait, and I'll fight you next. He didn't want to do it. He wanted to go fight Wilder. Failed PED test because of high blood pressure medication. So Whyte and Joshua did actually try. So it's not like Luis Ortiz truly is the boogeyman. He's not. He's got a reputation as a boogeyman because of Tyson Fury, what, 4 or 5 years ago, said that he is. That's all it came from. The Wilder fanboys will big him up because Wilder done him. Well, okay, fine, whatever. But at this stage, Luis Ortiz, in my opinion, would absolutely annihilate Joe Joyce. This is the wrong fight for him. So him calling out all like his top fighters, Joe, stop calling out these fighters unless you've got a serious ambition to do so. You call out Luis Ortiz, then I expect you to at least try and make the fight. You call out Jarrell Miller, I expect you to at least try and make the fight. But listen, he's a PBC fighter now, so don't expect him to fight anybody of any kind of great note. This fight with Bermane Stiverne weekend will probably be his biggest profile fight in 2019. That's my honest opinion, but you never know. Good luck to him, and I hope that he proves me wrong. He's a Brit, so of course I do support him. I don't sound like I do, but I do. It's just that I don't like it when fighters call out other fighters and then duck them. In other words, what's the point in calling them out? Anyway, that's my thoughts. You give me yours. Click thumbs up to this video. Subscribe. Catch you all on the next one.